Welcome to the Tribe of Testimonies. Here you will find conversations with faithful Native American members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sharing their stories and their love of the Savior. My name's Andrea Hales. I'm Navajo, and I'm glad that you've decided to come and join us today. My guest today is Cheryl Curry. It's interesting because when I found her, she told me, she's like, this is exactly what I need, meaning her, not me. And she explained that she's been working on this project, which you will hear about. And just me reaching out to her and being able for her to share her testimony about this project was a gift to her. It was not something I had any idea about, but I loved that I could be part of her miracle. I loved that this miracle can be now shared with you. So I was really happy to hear that from her. And then when we talked, she was just so excited to share it. And her life is like a lot of us, where we've gone in and out of and up and down and all around. And she is just so grateful and strong right now. And I really think you can feel that in the conversation that we have. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, because I did. So here is Cheryl. I'm on the phone today with Cheryl Curry. I Facebook, I don't know if stalked is the right word, but I Facebook found her. And it seemed like it was meant to be. So I'm really glad that Cheryl could take this time to be with us. Cheryl, would you please introduce yourself in your tribal way as much as possible? If it's in your language, great. If it's not, that's fine. Not everybody speaks their language, and some languages are dead.
Yahweh, Scano, Gogwego, Cheryl Curry, Nikiaso, Gega, Yahweh. I am thankful you are all well. My name is Cheryl Curry, and I am from the Beaver Clan. I'm thankful for the opportunity that you've given me here to share a little bit of myself, about myself. I am from the Seneca Nation, Seneca tribe. I was born and raised on the Cattaraugus Indian Reservation. I'm a mother of 6 descendants, Seneca descendants, a grandmother of 4. I'm sorry, I take that back, 5 now. We just had 2 new babies, so.
Great. Would you share something that you love about your heritage as it relates to the gospel of Jesus Christ? It can be pretty much anything, a story, a celebration, a way of life, a ceremony. What do you love of your heritage as it relates to the gospel?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, my mind, when you ask me that question, my mind goes in several different directions. Knowing our heritage and knowing our people's ways, the first thing that comes to my mind and my thoughts are the spiritual language that was gifted to our people. You talked about, some languages are dead. Well, the spiritual language sometimes gets closed off, and I feel like it brings us closer to the Creator. Our ancestors were close to the Creator. They were tied to the Creator, and it gave us so much knowledge from being able to have that spiritual language to communicate with our Creator. And the gospel gives us that through the Holy Ghost, and gives us the opportunity to reconnect with the Creator, to be free of bondage. The reason I say bondage is because I was thinking about these questions last night, and I thought about our ancestors, and and it goes back to scripture with Moses and how the Israelites came out of bondage. They prayed and they were connected to the Creator, to God, and they asked to be freed. They waited for waited for Moses to come, and they suffered in slavery. They suffered in bondage, basically. And it took a lot of faith and a lot of belief in knowing that they every day of their trials and struggles that they had to live, they were going to be freed, and the Lord would hear their prayers and did hear their prayers. So when I got to thinking about that, with this day and age and the way we live our lives and how that spiritual language has kind of died a little bit, with these new generations, that connection isn't quite there as like it used to be. And with the work that I do, I work with a lot of I work with our Native people, our Native American people that have addiction problems. So I work in addiction recovery with our Native people, and I get to witness this bondage that our ancestors, the Israelites, had in a sense, but now it's a new bondage, and it's taken us to drug addiction, and it takes us away from our families. It's taken our faith, it's taken our belief system, it's taken our connection. And I feel like a lot of our people suffer this epidemic. The whole world is suffering with this epidemic, not only just our Native people, but our Native statistics say that we have the highest rate in everything, from depression, from addiction recovery, to anxiety, to suicide, to teenage pregnancies, to single parents, to domestic violence. We as Native people have the highest rates statistically. And I feel like it's because we've lost that connection like our ancestors used to have. So on this journey, the Lord, I believe, has led me on a journey, started about 4 years ago. And I feel like I was in that bondage at one time. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because this is how I got out of it. And I had to pray. I had to reconnect with God. I had to reconnect with our Creator and ask, because there were certain things going on in my life with my children. I had a son that was having some issues. I won't get into detail on that, but as a mother, I felt guilty and I felt ashamed, because growing up in the church and in the gospel and having the gospel as my foundation, I wasn't following the rules. I wasn't following his commandments. And it led me away. It led me to where addiction would take over and I would have my own bondage, per se. So I prayed and reconnected with the Creator, and he has directed me for the last 4 years on this journey. And that spiritual language told me to move to Arizona, and I had no idea what I would be doing. I just listened to the Holy Ghost. I listened to the Spirit telling me I needed to move and I needed to do certain things here in Arizona. Well, 4 years later, I was led every direction that has happened since I've been here has been led by the Spirit, but God has directed me in certain areas, educated me, trained me. I've never thought in a million years I'd be standing in front of my peers with addiction recovery, learning how to break free of that bondage. So basically what I'm teaching or facilitating is the basic, simple. There's no magic to it. It's just reconnecting with our Creator, finding in our hearts to forgive ourselves, and asking the Creator for forgiveness is the first step. And I kind of want to share a little stories. When I got into this 2 years into it, my heart would go out to them. I'd see their sufferings. They'd tell me the most darkest stories of trauma and hurt and abuse, and my heart would go out. And I sat at church one morning in Sacrament, and I prayed with a sincere heart, and I asked the Creator, can you just give me the power to heal them? I have faith enough to know you can give me healing hands. Help me heal my people. They suffer. I see them suffering. I used to suffer. I know their pain. So when this happened, I prayed, and I got up from Sacrament, and I went into the Relief Society room, and I sat down, and a still small voice whispered in my mind, and my thoughts came to me and said, Cheryl, all I need you to do is reconnect my people. Teach them to pray to me. Teach them to reconnect to me. Teach them to put the work in, and then I may be able to heal. Then I will lay my healing hands upon their heads. Those were the words that came to my mind and my thoughts. Very profound. So I picked my head up, the tears rolled down my cheeks, and I went, okay. Because the one main important reason is he gives us our free agency. We as a people, as disciples, as brothers and sisters, we have to come into one another's lives to teach and to love a person for who they are and give them that light and give them that hope, that Christ-like love. That's why it's so important to love one another, because the world is suffering and our people suffer from this bondage that they've placed themselves in if they were born into it. And a lot of our people were born into that. And when I facilitate a class, it was so profound. Talking about it was how smart is the destroyer. I call him the destroyer. Literally to destroy a whole generation. When it happened with historical trauma, when historical trauma played a role with the boarding schools, and then you look at the bigger picture, what was he actually doing? He took the children from their parents, their families, their culture, everything they knew about love, their teachings, right? Placed them in boarding schools. And as they placed them in boarding schools, the children lost that aspect. They lost a hug. They lost their culture. They lost their teaching, and they lost how they connect with the Creator. That spiritual language was taken away from them. So the point of that is he takes away a culture, he takes away a spiritual language, he takes away a family, he takes away everything that is so important in grooming a child into an adult. And then at the same time, as these children grow and have their own children, he takes away a religion, even a God, because now a lot of our ancestors, a lot of our people, they think, oh, that's white man's way. Oh, we can't go that way. Look what they did to our people, our ancestors. They took them and they killed them and they did all these things to them, all these horrific things. So it puts a bad taste in our people's mouths to hear the word Jesus or to hear the word God. So how smart is the destroyer? He takes away culture that is based on the Creator, and then he takes away even a God from a whole generation. So they wander, and they're wandering, and they have no insight. They have no understanding of who they are, who their foundation is, what their foundation is. So every day I go in and I facilitate these classes, and I'm my objective or purpose is to share that knowledge, to share that light. Hey, even though you've done these things, I've had a mother come in crying saying she was a monster. I don't want to be that monster anymore, sobbing. I don't want to be that monster. She's 25 years old. They called her the hatchet mom. She was so violent and so vicious, and these little babies that she brought into this world had to see and be around this addiction, around these monsters that were supposed to be their protectors. So this woman comes in, and this young woman comes in, sobbing. I don't want to be a monster anymore. Help me not be a monster. What do I do? How do I be a better parent? How do I be a better human being? And she laid in my arms and she sobbed in my chest, and I all I could do is just hold her and feel her pain and ask the Lord to help her. And I said, you're doing it right now. You're changing your ways. You're reaching out to the Creator. You're asking for forgiveness, and He's giving you the power. And I promise you, you put the work in, He will lay His healing hands upon your head. And you are saving that next generation by doing what you're doing. Your sacrifices by change is huge to this posterity, to this next generation. So the work that I've been led to do here in Arizona, to start in Arizona, but I started a new company. I started a new business, an outpatient. I'm trying to do an outpatient facility for our Native American people. I want a little Indian village. It's called the Gathering of Turtle Island Healing Center. It is a place of refuge. It is a place of healing. It is a place of peace from the wicked ways of the world. And I truly believe that the Spirit has led me here to help our people, to help individuals, whoever comes across our path every single day. I mean, we all have the opportunity to do it. Um, but from my upbringing, from growing up on territory, I know the pains, I know the addiction, I know the sufferings, from domestic violence to trauma, to losing a parent at a very, very young age, to seeing my mother suffer from addiction, to abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, even through marriages. I've pretty much went through the whole cycle of all of it. And when I was younger, I used to think, in my early 30s, I used to think, how come all this has to happen to me? Why do I have to suffer for so long? Why do all these bad things always have to happen to me? Now, as an adult, I'll be 51 this month. And as an adult, I look back and I don't ask that question anymore. I had to endure the pains and sufferings to learn empathy and compassion to do the work of the Lord.
What was the changing point in your life? What tipped you in the right direction?
Being a failure as a mother, my young 11-year-old come to me with tears, um, at, physically saying that he hears someone telling him to hurt himself. And he came to me crying, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute now. That's not right. 11-year-old shouldn't have to have these pains or these sufferings or these thoughts. Why is my 11-year-old having these thoughts? Is it because of lack of my parenting, because of my falling away from the church or falling away from the commandments? Were these things were part of his suffering? And it woke me up, where I fell to my knees and I prayed to the Lord and I asked for forgiveness. And I said, okay, help me help my child. I'm sorry. What do I need to do? What do I need to do, Heavenly Father? Please help me, because I don't want my son to leave. I don't want my son to feel scared. How do I protect him? So it takes a mother's love and sacrifice. And the Lord directed me, and he told me, he said, you need to move to Arizona, Cheryl. He whispered it so softly in my mind 3 times. You need to move to Arizona. And I had no idea why. And I heard the Lord's voice and I said, okay. Went home, told my family. I left my job. I had a nice job. Left my home, no bills, really comfortable. Packed up my 3-year-old, my 11-year-old. My older son came with me. Packed up my Jeep and I moved to Arizona with just a TV and some clothes, and that was it. And for the last 4 years, this journey has been pretty interesting. And I promise you, I listened to the Spirit, and not once have I ever gone without. Not once have I ever gone without. I have been blessed and protected and guided in this journey, and that was a turning point for me. And then over the past 4 years, I've become stronger. I've connected differently. That spiritual language is stronger. I can feel it. I can see it better. My eyes are opened. Um, and I've been truly, truly blessed. My family's been blessed, and I honestly feel protected and I feel safe. I don't feel the hardships. Um, and I have all the gratitude in the world. And honestly, I feel like I've been primed and prepped by the Creator from my birth until now. Everything that I've had to endure. And I say endure because those things teach us things and make us strong. So if you're listening to this and you're out there and you're suffering with depression, anxiety, hurt, a child suffering with addiction, be prayerful. Love the individual. Love yourself again. Learn to love yourself again. And that's what it took, was for me to love myself again, even with my mistakes. I had a student ask me one time, client asked me, she says, Cheryl, what is it? What makes you happy? And I think it was about 49 at the time. I'm 51, so it was a few years ago. And I honestly couldn't ask her, or I couldn't tell her. I couldn't respond. I was like, I don't know. No one's ever asked me what makes me happy. I haven't even asked myself what makes me happy. You know, I like it when I have a little money in my pocket, if that puts a smile on my face, but is that truly happy? Does that truly make me happy? The safety of my children, the birth of my children make me happy. But what really makes Cheryl happy? And I couldn't answer her. I honestly couldn't answer her. And now looking back, when what I can say truly makes me happy is the relationship I have established with my creator. That is what truly makes me happy. And I'm grateful for our ancestors for giving us that, because, you know, our culture and the teachings. And I honestly believe, you know, when we talk about Israel, you know, back to the bondage, freeing. When I had that connection with the creator, when I had this connection with him, I am free from bondage. He freed me. He didn't open up and part a sea. He actually did, but in a different way. Everything in this history repeats itself, they say, but in a different way. He opened up my heart like he parted the Red Sea, opened it up. I was able to love again. I was able to love myself again. I was able to be a better mother because of it. I'm able to be a better friend, a better sister, a better daughter, because this world is really, really wicked and chaotic. And if the destroyer can harden your heart and keep you far away from having that connection with the creator, he is doing his job. Number one key is to destroy a family. And if you can take a mother out of the picture and you can take a father out of the picture, he laughs at us. And the reason I say he laughs at us, I remember about 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I had a vivid dream. And I remember, and I'll give you the short version. I remember walking past a man in white clothing, and I stepped back and I looked and I whispered through my mind, and I whispered through my mind, I said, Father? Like I didn't recognize him right away. And I whispered softly in my mind, I said, Father? And he continued to walk away, just continued to walk. And I said, Grandfather? And he stops. He stops and he turns around and he walks towards me. And he embraces this hug of gratitude and love that I've never felt in my life. And he held me. And as he held me, he whispered softly through my mind was, I am so glad you remembered me. Because at first I didn't remember or recognize him. And then when I remembered him, he stopped and he embraced me. And then he held me after that. He held me and gave me this so much love. I've never felt this type of love before. But at the same time, he said, I have to let you go. And he knew my sufferings. He knew my pain. I knew he knew my pain, the things that I would have to endure in this earthly world. I knew it in this dream. I could feel it. And he didn't want to let me go, but he said, I need you to always remember me. Remember who you are. And then he walked away, and I'm looking outside. I felt like I was underneath a temple, and I look out the windows at the top of the temple, and there's a church down. And guess who's standing there but the adversary? Very handsome, delightsome looking, not scary, but had a, you knew who he was. I recognized who he was. My spirit did in my dream. And I took these golden arrows I had on my back. I took these golden arrows and I drew back the arrow, the string, and I fired at him as protection. And he just grabbed them out of the air like thin air, just grabbed them like a nothing and laughed and threw them to the ground and broke them and laughed. He literally chuckled at me. And I became upset, and I looked at him and I came distraught, like, oh my gosh, how is he doing this? And then he laughs at me, and then he lays his hand across his chest, across the front, like he unfolded, and he points down at the bottom of the hill in front of this church, and there's thousands of sheets laid over bodies and mothers mourning their children, crying over their children, sobbing over their children. And he says, what do I need you for? And he laughs. He goes, because I have your children. Very profound dream. And I didn't understand it at the time. Before the dream ended, I went down to those women and I said, pulled the sheets off, and basically, long story short of it was, you have to believe, moms, fathers, you have to believe and you have to reconnect. And he doesn't have your children. With that type of faith, you can free your children from the bondage of addiction, from the bondage of depression. You have to believe and you have to have them believe, and you need to teach them the foundation. And that's where how the gospel came into my life, because I was born into it. I had the foundation taught to me at a very young age, and I had this connection taught to me at a very young age. So the gospel is very important, regardless of religion or our beliefs. The number one thing is to reconnect with the Creator. The number one thing is to reconnect to Him and believe and have faith and walk in faith. And our gospel teaches us those things. It gives us the commandments to walk, to follow. It gives us temples to go into, to ask for advice away from the world, to hear the spiritual language, to give us guidance and direction in this world. This is all a learning process for us. And at 51, I'm starting to finally learn and understand the purpose of our being here spiritually. We're a body of flesh, but we are still a spirit of Him. We come from Him, and we are connected to Him. Everybody, not just the Lamanite people, but everybody. We are all His children.
When you got to Arizona and you were changing things in your life, how did you do that? What people did you meet along your way? What programs were you interested in?
That's an interesting question. I have an answer for that one. When I got here, I was still drinking. I had listened to the Creator, but I was still drinking. On the weekends, I was functional. I justified it. I felt like I could do both. God still loves me. Don't we all do that? God loves me, right? So I get out here, I listened, and I remember my twin sister, she's full blown into the church. She does her thing, and she's like, Cheryl, God told you to move out here. Why are you still drinking? And I pulled a drink out of my purse and cracked it open, and I looked at her and I said, you know what? He told me to move out here, Sherry, but he didn't tell me I had to quit drinking. When he tells me to quit drinking, I'll listen, jokingly. And I threw back my can of beer and didn't have a guilty feeling in my bone, not one. And so as I started living, out here doing what I was supposed to be doing, money started getting tight. I started to, okay, where am I going to live? What do I got to do? And I still had this faith and this energy of feeling I'm going to be fine. I'm fine. No worries. I listened to God. He told me to move here. I moved here. He's going to take care of me. And he did. He didn't judge me because I drank a beer. I was still his child. But what he did is he showed me a direction. He led me in the right direction. And I had to listen to that spiritual language again. And he says, you need to go to church, Cheryl. You need to get up and you need to go to church. And I didn't want to get up and go to church. I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet. But I heard the spiritual language and I had to listen. So I got myself prepared, got ready to go to church, went to church. There's 150 people in the audience, right, in the congregation. I haven't been to church in I don't know how long, a couple years. I get into church and I'm sitting there, and it happens to be fast and testimony meeting. And I'm like, okay, I'm used to this. All right, let's get through church. I'm here. What am I supposed to learn? Looking around at people. Maybe I'm going to meet somebody, talk to somebody. No idea. And then all of a sudden I get a prompting. The Spirit tells me to get up and go to bear your testimony. Get up, Cheryl. And I'm like talking to myself in my mind. I'm like, I'm not getting up there. I don't know none of these people, like 200 people in this crowd. So I'm having this argument with me and the Spirit, telling me to get up there and share my testimony. And I'm like, I'm not sharing my testimony. Heck no, I'm not getting up there. I'm not getting up there. And, mind battle here. with the Spirit, and he says, get up there. Whispers, you need to get up there and speak, Cheryl. You need to share your story. And it was a gentle voice. It was the Spirit. I'm like, oh my goodness, fine. That's basically my thoughts were to him. Fine, okay, I'm listening. Not very reverent, but I did it. So I got up there and I had no idea what I was going to say in front of these 200 people, non-native. I'm used to a church of natives. On the Cattaraugus Reservation, we have a church that's, there's non-natives and natives, but there's a mix, and it's a small, very, very small and intimate. This is like 200 people. And I'm like, what do I share? I'm walking up here, and in my mind, I'm thinking, what am I supposed to share? I don't know what to say. Well, I get up there, the Spirit takes over, and I don't even really know exactly what I said. And what I did share was enough for after sacrament, somebody comes up to me and said, I heard your story. And that was where the first journey started, where I was led. Individual young woman comes up. She's married to a Navajo. She's non-native, married to a Navajo man. And she said, my husband is Navajo, and his uncle, or his uncle or cousin is Al Pooley, who owns NAFA, Native American Fathers and Families Associations. I heard that, we were at dinner last night and he's looking for an assistant. Maybe you can give him a call and you can find a job. And I was like, oh, all right, kind of cool. Okay. So she gave me the number and wrote it down, made the phone call, went in for the interview. And on the way to the interview, when I was driving there, the Spirit overwhelmed me again. This is my path. I knew I was supposed to be going here. Sat down in front of them. Native American Fathers and Families Associations. I had no idea what I would be teaching. Very little did I know that this man would be my mentor for the next 2 years, be teaching me everything that I'm doing, building my confidence, helping me with my sobriety. I had no idea that's what he was doing. So how does the Lord take me into this direction, in this workforce where I'm going to make a living, but not only make a living, but learn that I don't need alcohol in my life, learn that I have more to offer this world, and learning to find who I truly, truly am. This man was LDS. The whole workforce was LDS. All native, pretty much all native. He wrote a curriculum, Fatherhood is Sacred, Motherhood is Sacred, linking generations and relationships, addressing family violence. So these 3 curriculums he trained me on. He trained me there. I think it's like $1,500 for the class to be certified to teach or facilitate this curriculum. But he gave this to me for free. I didn't have the money or the resources, but he gave this opportunity for me, trained me in it. I took the classes, and then he says, okay, Cheryl, I want you to go teach. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not ready to go facilitate. I can't do that. No. He says, no, yes, you are. You're ready. I said, no, I'm a nobody. I can't do that. He says, don't say that. You are somebody. You have so much to offer because you have been through every single thing in trial, that the individuals and your peers that are suffering, that you are the only one that could probably help them. I'm a psychiatrist, or I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist. I've worked in the industry for years. I've been to school. I've written these curriculums, but I have one thing that you have, I don't. Have never experienced addiction. I've never experienced these types of traumas you've been through. I've never experienced any of these things. I won't get into detail because there's lots of them, but he gave me the courage, and he gave me a chance. He believed in me enough to where I believed in myself, because I didn't believe in myself, and that's where the alcohol came in. I was never good enough. You're no good. That self-critic. You're not smart enough. You only got a GED. You're born and raised on the res. You ain't got nothing to offer the world. And when a person believes that and is oppressed for their whole life, they don't see their potential until somebody actually loves them and shows them that they do have potential. So he gave me this opportunity. He says, go on into prison. Go in. I want you to go teach in the women's prison. And I was like, I don't know. I'm claustrophobic. I'm not going in there. I was scary. I don't ever want to be on that side of the fence ever. No, no, no. Now you want me to go in there and teach, and then the doors clanging behind me and locking me in cement rooms to get to where I got to go facilitate. Oh my goodness, I was terrified. Um, but what a beautiful experience. Beautiful experience. And the environment in a prison. I walked in and I looked through this little template hole. They have this little hole, probably no bigger than a camera size, no bigger than a phone size, where you can look into these metal cages, right? Because that's exactly, they're like pods. And I looked through the pod through the window, and I seen this one woman laying in the gym. It's like a little rec area that's in between the pods, and the windows up high, they're rectangular, probably maybe 3 feet long and maybe 4 inches wide across at the very top of this cement building. And I looked through that little hole and I seen this woman, one woman laying there. Her back was to me. And in this dark little area, gymnasium, cement floor, there was a little rectangle of light from the window above laying in the middle of the room. And do you know where that woman was laying? She was laying in the sunlight, the only light that was in the room. And she was drawn to it. And I literally looked at that. That's the world around us. We're in darkness and we're drawn to the light. It was so profound. And then to be able to teach them, I had started with 12 to facilitate Al Pooley's curriculum, Fatherhood and Motherhood is Sacred. These mothers were so intent, but the spirit was there. That's the most important part. The light was there, and the women were drawn to it, and it was beautiful. So those experiences have brought me 4 years later, growing and building my character, building my self-esteem, learning to love myself, learning to do the Lord's work and feel like I'm okay. I can, that I'm not a bad person. I'm allowed to. Um, with the Lord's powers and the Lord's direction, there's nothing we are not capable of doing. We are all brilliant in our own way, and we all have a light to give to this world. We just need to recognize it, and we need to grow it. And once we realize that we can beat adversity. We can upset the destroyer, if you will, and we can let this new generation coming in teach them this valuable spiritual language that is so important in this life. And I'm grateful because I have the opportunity. I've witnessed it. I felt it. I've lived it. And I believe it. And that's the most important part.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the business that you're starting, because you told me some really cool things about it, that that your plans are different than anybody else's.
My plans are the creator's plans. My vision. I call it my vision. The majority of Arizona and outpatients across, I say across Indian country, they're very clinical. And my mentor, Al Pooley, is the one that opened my eyes to this, is because he said it's like this, Cheryl. He said, if you draw a circle, maybe I'm not doing it right, but if you draw a circle and you have a triangle, say the circle is the Native American life culture, right? And you draw the triangle or a square, and that's the non-Native world culture. And you put the triangle in the circle, do they fit? Do they match? They don't. That's why it doesn't work. That's why these clinical behavioral health places, they don't work. We're throwing money. Our tribes, behavioral health is throwing money away. We're desperate. We're desperate to save our children. We're desperate to save our moms, our fathers, our teenagers. Addiction is the bondage, right? We're so very desperate. These clinics, health clinics, outpatient facilities, they're in commercial buildings. It's cold. It's all medical. Drug test. Take your phones away. it's routine, and I'm not saying some of them don't help. I'm sure some of them do. They get a detox, they go to detox, and then where? But our native people learn differently, even if they haven't been brought up in the culture. Their their spirits learn differently, and I've witnessed this and seen this. So the vision came was, I need to open up an outpatient. I need to open up a healing center away from the clinical world, away from this world. I need to create a refuge. So in this refuge is, I'm looking to purchase a horse property, and then make this refuge like an Indian village. I'd like to put the tribal dwellings up, a teepee, a longhouse, a hogan, a few sweat lodges, so people can reconnect. So our native people can reconnect, so they can go into these tribal dwellings and they can ground themselves. They can see and respect and honor what our ancestors and how they survived. Educate them on who our ancestors were, the trials and tribulations they had to endure. Every morning they get up and pray. We have a place where we go out. We go out, we meditate, if you want to call it meditation, if you want to call it prayer. We were given medicine, sage, cedar, lavender, certain medicines for healing, for our people smudge. At one time I wasn't a smudger. I didn't really know anything about my culture, and I didn't really know anything about that world. I was born and raised LDS, so to see this other side, the culture side, the spiritual side, was like, wow. Um, just because it's not LDS doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because the Creator came to this land and taught our ancestors, showed them, gave them the ways to live. And now He's asking us to start to reconnect, and He's asking me for this, to give this place of refuge, to teach this again. Just back to basics, the simplicity of everything. Um, we have, inner city, natives that don't have the culture or spirituality. All they know is drugs and darkness. I mean, the stories are horrific. Like, we're very blessed. We're very blessed people. But then a lot of our people that don't live in this world, this other world that they live in, is very dark. Um, I thought my life was tough. Okay, growing up on the res, and growing up and going through traumas and tribulations and all those things. I thought it was. I thought I had it bad. Their lives make my life look like I had a bed of roses. I was protected. It's unreal, some of the stories that I hear. The women getting beaten by the men in such I mean, young girl getting smashed. I'm not trying to, I don't want to say too many bad things, but she's been smashed in the face by someone who's supposed to love her and protect her, with a shovel, dragged by a car. Another woman sharing her story, literally run over, her face run over, beaten, just in front of their children even. I mean, we're the protectors, right? So to see all this hurt and all this, as the Lord sees it. So it's like, we need to start praying as a people again. We need to start praying together again. We need to start reconnecting together. There's power in numbers. Just like the Israelites, when they were over with Moses, they prayed together. There was strength in numbers. Look at all the numbers. So it's our duty to pray. It's our duty to lift the curse, right? It's our duty to ask the Creator to lift this curse from our people. And I might be just a small little Indian village. I'm going to start a little healing center, Gathering at Turtle Island Healing Center, GTI, a place of refuge, a place of safety, and a place of love, because that's what they're missing. I hope in the next year or so, this vision comes full circle. Um, right now I have about 10 clients I'm looking to build on. Some days I go out and I facilitate classes that are at 40 to 50 clients, but I am facilitating fatherhood is sacred, motherhood is sacred, um, domestic violence, anger management, and of course all Al Pooley's curriculum. I've actually Warrior Down, White Bison. So there's all these different native curriculums that are starting to come together, and they've been led. They've been led by a higher power to have these curriculums, and the people that have created these curriculums have been led by the Creator to help our people. Now it's people like myself to be able to share this knowledge, to be able to share it and understand it to help our people. But the most important thing is we need to start praying as a people. And it's not rocket science. It's anybody can teach it. It's just getting out there and actually believing, because I've seen it work. I've seen him work mighty, mighty miracles within myself, and the change that has changed in me because of the work, or because he loves me. I don't know. Because I'm remembering who I am, because I'm remembering who he is. Not perfect by any means. I'll never be perfect. I'll probably fall every now and then, but I'll tell you what, this will be the work. This will be my work for the rest of my earthly life, and maybe even afterwards.
I wish you so much luck in all of this. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But I have one final question for you. What does it mean to you to know that you belong to the tribe of Israel?
Honestly, you know what? The first word that popped into my mind was, I'm protected. I have been given blessings and covenants that were made with the tribes of Israel. And those blessings and covenants are following me to this day. So it means everything to me, because I am protected, because I am loved, and I do have promises. And um, honestly, I've always felt that we were actually descendants of, our lineage goes back. I honestly believe we're part of it, not just through baptism. But I feel like when we talk about the chosen people, I feel like the Lamanite people are the chosen people. And that's why we suffer so much. And that's why, and I always said this, a robber doesn't rob. I mean, I've heard it before, a robber doesn't rob an empty house. If we weren't a chosen people, why do we suffer, and why do we have the highest statistics? Why does the destroyer come at us so hard? Why do we have to fight? Literally a spiritual warfare we have to fight. We would not be successful without having those covenants and blessings from our ancestors. Those promises that were made to our ancestors. Those promises are coming full circle. If that makes any sense. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Cheryl. I think you're wonderful, and I'm so grateful to know you now.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate this time. It really got me to start really thinking deep. When somebody asks you a question, it kind of makes you kind of ponder a little bit about, wow, look at where 4 years have brought me, and the Lord's done it. He's led me every part of the way, and I'm so grateful and have the gratitude for it. I love my Savior, and the word is Savior. He's brought me out of bondage, and I'm so thankful for it. So grateful for it, because I feel free, and I can finally say I'm happy.
This past week, we studied John chapters 2, 3, and 4 in the New Testament. And one of the ones that I had not really thought so much about before, and if you've listened to Come Follow Me stuff, you probably heard this somewhere. I don't know which one talked about it, but probably a lot of them did. But I don't know. Anyway, but the thing that struck me was the story about Jesus turning water into wine. And so when we sat as a family with our children and talked about some of the stories that we had read through the week, we talked about this one. And I said, okay, so in this story, if we're going to relate it to us, who are you? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, are you Jesus? No. I said, are you Mary, his mother? No. Are you the wedding guests? I don't know. And I'm sure we could relate to all of those in one way or another, but the relation that I wanted my children to think about was not a who are we in this story, but a what are we in this story. We are the water. If we give ourselves to Jesus and let him change us into something the best, he will do that. He will change us from water into wine. He will change us from something that is just simple and hopefully clean and good to something that is desirable and that is the best. That's what they talked about in the story. I said, so you guys, my family, you guys be the wine or be the water that Jesus changes. Be that. But you have to give yourself to him. You have to be available for him to do that. So I just really like talking with my children about that story because it seemed like something that I needed to hear that week, this past week, and that even my children needed to hear. So it felt really good. And I just wanted to share that with you today. And yeah, I hope that you found stories in the Come Follow Me lesson reading that we did last week that meant something extra to you. And this is also a reminder to you, if any of you are available to be in the Mesa area in a month, March 10th and 11th, I'd love to see you there. I'm going to be there. So I'd love to give you a hug and thank you for being a friend and a listener and whatever else you are. I really hope that I can see you there. So I hope you have a super wonderful, awesome day. Tribe of Testimonies is not sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The music is a traditional hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, arranged and performed by Kyle Forsyth. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear how this podcast is affecting you. And I'm always looking for guests. If you or someone you know would be a great guest, you can reach me at tribeoftestimonies@gmail.com.